Hi, I'm Steve and welcome back to our Aussie Adventure Channel, part 2 of our tips and mods. Today I'll show you around of all the modifications I've carried out on the outside of our caravan. Okay, starting from the front, this front hood mainly for you JK people. A lot of people have lost these on the road. What they give you are these crappy little latches here, not very good. I've already had one broken, and basically some people have put in bungee cords. It's a good idea. I've just gone to local hardware, Bunnings of course, just bought me an over centre latch, and that's quite secure. In the gas bottle department, all I've done here is put a ratchet strap around the bottles. I'll come around just to help secure the bottles a little bit better, and for security I've just got a cable, plasticated cable with a padlock. It's quite secure. On the front I've also added a stone guard, which you can pick up from any good caravan accessory shops, and I've also gave me a place to mount my max tracks, and to secure those onto the stone guard I've welded a little bar there, and I've got a little padlock there that goes through the handles of the max tracks. Can't get them out, and just held on by 2 ratchet straps, so quite secure. Now we've done quite a bit of dirt road at the moment, over 600 k's of dirt road, and it's all good. On the front, nothing spectacular really. It's everything you need to tow. The only thing I've added is a little clamp there, so when I take my jockey wheel off I can mount it up there, because I got sick of the jockey wheel rattling around the back of the truck, so or back of your van, and it's a good place to leave it, and it's outside. The only thing I've done is added a DO35 hitch, and that's just a homemade padlock, but you can get simpler ones if you want to go out and buy one. That's just more of a deterrent for thieves. Okay, that's pretty much it on the front. Yep, okay. Now on the episode 1 tips and mods on the inside of the caravan, I've added, since that I've put on a Dometic dust reduction system up there, and it works quite well. So I'll just diverse and we'll go inside and I'll show you what it looks like on the inside. So for you guys who have a Starcraft or a Journey, they're both a pretty much similar model. We've had it installed on the left hand side for no reason in particular. I basically left that up to the installer to decide which side he wants to put it on, and that's what it looks like. And you've got a filter up inside there. There's your filter, and that just pulls down and filters any dust. So I won't go into detail of that. You can actually Google that or see it on YouTube. People have demonstrated it, so it has worked, but I do suggest that any large vents, and I'll show you one in the bathroom, I would tape up this vent here, and I've also taped up, I'll go outside, so obviously so there's a vent on the step, and I've got that taped up. It's quite a large opening. I won't pull it off because we're still on the road and running short of tape actually. So yeah, like the idea of it pressurizes the van, so obviously it's going to find the path of least resistance and go through a large opening. So if you close up your large opening, it's not a big deal. you'll find it'll work really well. Now we've done over 600 k's of dirt, and yeah, it's been fantastic. I highly recommend it. Now on the outside, I've went to the reject shop, or one of those cheap dollar shops, and I've just found these sensor lights, good for security. They were $10 each, so there are a number of different styles. I've got one on the front of the van there, and I've got one on the back. One just there, so I think they're fantastic. $10, no wiring, solar powered, fantastic. I've installed a heater, a diesel heater, so that's where my tank's installed there. I'll show you the part of the installation when I get underneath. Okay, on the back, starting from the centre, this was, well is, my garbage bag, but at the moment I got it full of firewood. So I'm going to have to come up with something to carry me firewood. I didn't really want to carry it inside the car. Alongside that, got some jerry can holders to carry water. Now before you start putting all the stuff on your rear bar, I recommend, if you're not fully up to knowing your welding standards, get someone to check out your rear bar to make sure it can carry the weight, because yeah, it could end up on the road. So this is a 2014 model, and back then I believe they did things pretty good. So I've got two water bottles. They come in handy when you're at a free camp, you set up, you're running out of water, you can just run and fill up these bottles and fill up your tank. Bit tedious, but it's better than running out of water. Here I've got another two small tanks. One's diesel, one I haven't even used yet, so yeah, just utilising that space. And there's our little logo on the back of our van. Plus it's an aftermarket camera, a Safety Dave camera, quite good. It's got a microphone in it up there. But if you're going to get a camera, especially buying one new, get it done in the factory, because that way they won't have to run the cabling on the inside of the van. So yeah, that's just a little tip there. Now some of you with Jaycos got the window and you've got your door here, and what happens is your door hits the window. So my wife found this little plastic thing, it's called door latch. It's the plastic, if I can get this camera to go down on it, there you go. It's just an extender onto your door handle gizmo there, and that holds the door away from the window. It solves that problem. However, they're not very good in really high winds, that will come out, but just under normal conditions, quite good, quite handy. Now just here, that's just your standard just here, that's just your standard picnic table. And what I have done, what I do recommend when you're travelling, is just to put tape over your locks, which I've done here, especially on dirt roads, just to keep the dust out of your locks. Not those ones so much, but I do it on all these, and even on your door lock here too. I'll put tape on that when we're travelling. So in the tunnel boot, that's my Ziggy. Now there's a lot of designs. You can probably go and buy a fridge slide. I've made up my own for something to do, because as you can see, that won't, if I had a Weber which got stolen, so I had to keep taking the lid off to put it away. I find the Ziggies made for the job. yeah, there's lots of ways of making your slides. I won't go into detail, but that's my setup. And this board I can, geez, the sun's a bit reflective. There you go. Now this board's been so handy. You can take it out. You can use it for anything basically. I've even cut mud flaps on it when I had to on the road to replace some of the broken mud flaps on my car. It's good for putting a cooker on or anything like that, cutting things up on. And that's my gas fitting there. As you can see, that's my toilet cassette. Once again, got all my locks taped up for the dust. When I'm travelling, I will cover this bottom one up just to give the dust system a bit of a chance. I will tape everything up here when I'm travelling. Okay, and all my locks I'll tape up everything. I will even tape up the hot water service. I will put tape in there and also the other side just to keep some of the dust out. And like I said, there's the other side of my tunnel boot. Put a bit of tape over the locks. Now while we're on the outside of the van, there's my outlet for my grey water tank. Now I've built a fairly substantial skid bar around that to protect it with a bit of a stone shield. So if you look from the front, that will not get smashed. That bracket is so strong I can actually jack the van up from that. That's that'd be about 50mm by 10mm flat bar, bent and welded, and it just basically fits in a U-bolt at the back around the chassis, quite easy to do, and an existing bolt hole there at the back. Now for the water tanks, they are wrapped in gal, but the most vulnerable part is the drain plug, and I've had them smashed off. Now I've just made an extra extension skid plate. So I just made some brackets and mounted some gal. There's a skid plate. There's a 4" there. Also protects a lot of this piping, and the main thing is to protect your drain plug. Now I've done that on the rear one and also on the front tank as well. So this is the front tank setup. Once again, I've got another skid plate, well, not a skid plate but a cover basically, stone guard covering the water outlet or the water drain plug. So you can see the tank is covered, but the most vulnerable part there is the drain plug, and there's lots of other bits and pieces of hoses hanging out, which now gets protected by this guard. So if you're handy or get someone to make up some brackets, you'll always find somewhere to mount something there, you know, a bracket or whatever. Yeah, and it's been quite effective. I've had no problems. So I'm underneath the van at the moment, right at the rear, just in front of the spare wheel. Now I like to have my open fires, and I've battled to find a place to carry a full-length shovel. Get this. There's one in. I've just slipped it through the chassis. I've got a little bracket in the middle there that's kind of holds it in. It's all held in with a ratchet strap. I don't have a roof rack on my vehicle, so I just found the perfect spot I can try and, it might seem a little bit disorientating, but there's the bottom of a spare wheel. And there's the handle on the shovel, full length shovel, through the chassis rail there. It's up out of the way. And that's hopefully you can see that. Well, when I go to edit this, hopefully it'll come out clear and you can understand where I put the shovel. Okay. And there's another view of my grey water tank, stone guard protecting the outlet there. And just looking back, there's another guard protecting the side of the water tank. We're under the caravan now, and everything that goes through the channel, through the chassis channels, has been wrapped, protected from rubbing. Every electrical cable has been put into in this convoluted sort of conduit. There was lots of bare wires and stuff. Even my diesel heater, that's where I put my diesel heater now. I even made this bit of a rubber. Oh, if I can get a good picture there. This is just to protect stones from my diesel pump there. So everything's been wrapped in either that rubber foam or insulation, anything I could find, even garden hose, anything you can find. That's a piece of garden hose there. So to pave, spend a couple of hours underneath, and everywhere where it goes through the channel, through a hole or something like that, just protect it, and you shouldn't have any problems. So every plastic hose is wrapped in noodles or anything you can find. Just there is that copper pipe insulation. You get that from plumbers section in Bunnings. Anything you can do, just protect it. That's my little muffler for the heater going outside. And everything's pretty much everything that goes through channels is protected and wrapped up. Okay, this is up the front of the van underneath. Now this is a copper pipe coming through here, and it was coming under the channel. So I've made this little bracket just to protect the copper gas line. Why the life of me they do that, I don't know. I've had any protection, but that's something you can do, something you can think of. Get under there and see where your gas copper lines are going. Just another tip, if you're going to be using cable ties, use a heap of them, because it only needs one stone to hit it and they're gone. But if you've got a few of them, you've got a bit of a chance. So don't be stingy on your cable ties. So if you're on a trip and you're on dirt roads, always get underneath and have a look, because I did find one of my brake lines were disconnected. Always check those, and don't be afraid to carry a grease gun. Get in there and grease your suspension. I'd say at least every couple of thousand k's, or at least every 5,000 k's. Looks terrible at the moment. It's full of red dirt, but it's got fresh grease in there. Okay. So what I found, I was getting bad tyre wear, now mainly on the trailing wheels. I did do a wheel alignment myself, but these will only give you toe in and toe out adjustment on the JK suspension, the JTEC suspension. You have to actually cut these square retaining lugs off, and you can rotate that, and basically it pushes this arm forwards or backwards, and that's going to give you toe in and toe out. I made up a jig to measure the alignment, which I'll show you some photos on how I did that. So for far as tyres are going, my original tyres were getting a bit old, they were the 10-year mark, so I've gone for the Yokohama GR Landers all-terrains. So far they've proven good. Simplest way to see how your tyres are wearing is just look at them. You can get a key, stick them in the tread from side to side, and you'll get an idea on how even the tyre is wearing. So when doing a wheel alignment, we want to see if the wheel is running parallel to your chassis rail. I'm using aluminium extrusion, 30 by 15, and I purchased that from Bunnings. There was material left over from a project. Now you need two pieces, approximately 50 centimetres. Now they're going to be clamped to the chassis rails. This is my straight edge that goes across the wheels. Now they were simply made by using another piece. These are equal lengths, and I've just pop riveted them with a bit of strap aluminium there to hold them in place. So that can easily be made at home. There's no welding. This can also be made out of square tubing if you want to, out of steel tubing, but it's a little bit heavier. And also just a tape measure. 4 of these quick grip clamps is ideal. They'll go through the mag wheel on the Caravan to clamp your straight edge, and also to clamp these bars onto your chassis rail. And we'll go outside and I'll show you how they're fitted and how we use them. Also a pen and pad will come in handy to note down all your measurements. These straight pieces will clamp onto your chassis rail there like that, with a clamp behind there like so. So now that's giving me a reference point off the chassis rail. And so you can see I've got my straight edge set up there. This on the rim there, and also on the rim there. So now I've got my reference points. I can now run a tape from there at the front of the wheel. It's not showing very well there, to there. I can run a tape now from the front of that straight edge to the one it's clamped to the chassis rail. Now these measurements from there to there. Okay. And then make a note of the measurements. They should be equal at the front of the tyre. Also do the same at the back and measure back. At the rear of the tyre as well. So there I have my straight edge clamped to the rim. I have a reference point here, and I have a reference point there, which this bar is clamped to the chassis rail, and I just run a tape there and take my measurement, front and rear of the wheel, having equal distance there, front and rear, and that will give you an indication on how far out your wheel alignment is. They should be equal theoretically, but if you're within 2 or 3 mil, that's pretty good for a Jayco adjustment. So if you're not confident on doing your own wheel alignment, this will give you an idea on which wheel and what needs to be done to take it to a professional wheel aligner. It's a tedious process. For your initial measurements, make sure your van is on a flat level surface, which I didn't at home. I had to go to a car park, set up there and run around and do all my measurements. This will give you an idea, having looked at your tyre tread pattern and even wear across the face of your tyre. This will give you an even more precise indication on your wheel alignment. So these are just your standard tent ropes, and a lot of fancy straps now, but I'm just using what I had from my tent days, and that's just a little carabiner. So that's what I use to hook around the top of my annex, just up there. So that just loops around. Okay, that's the corner of my guy ropes, tent ropes. Bit hard doing this one-handed. Okay, it's on there. And that was my camera falling down over there. Okay. So you don't need to spend big bucks on pegs in the Bunnings fastening section, screws and nails. Pick up these for about 50 cents each, and while you're there you just pick up the bit that's in the same section. Yeah, a lot of camping shops, you know, you're paying a fortune for these, probably about $5-6 each. These are about 50 cents each. Buy a couple of washers and there you go. So you've seen the demonstration, so half a dozen of those and you will not pull them out of the ground, especially when they try and put a peg in this ground here at the moment. Yeah, it's hard as a rock, and these will even go through a tree stump if you have to. So the only thing is just be careful. If you're in a caravan park, you don't go through the electrical conduits in the ground or the water pipes through the ground, but you can still do that with a peg, so this just makes life easy. Yeah, that wraps up our part 2 of our tips and mods, what we've done on the outside of our caravan. I hope you get something out of this. Please like and subscribe. These flies are driving me nuts. And watch our other travel videos. So as soon as we get home, I'll edit and you can see our next Aussie adventures. Cheers.